Cecil RTSPP or Cecil Motley MDS.
So I'm just starting the Black Health Trust. You getting on? I'm just starting to. Thank you, Sam. Dr. Walks, you want to start?
Good afternoon, everyone. Merry Christmas and welcome to today's Black Health Trust. I'm Dr. Ivan Walks, and I would like to turn it over to our founder and leader, Dr. Randall Maxey.
Good afternoon, everyone. Merry, safe Christmas. Was our title today? We're going to have an abbreviated but important session today. Hello, Dr. Hines. Thank you for being here with us, and Dr. Walks. Dr. Neighbor is somewhere in Lower Alabama at a family reunion, so she most likely won't be with us until next week. We're going to talk about things that are important to us, and because we have a smaller attendance today, we're going to be liberal with letting people ask questions or make comments on the subject. So let's get started. Simon, can you put up the slides? So in most places in the United States, it is cold. So where I am in Los Angeles is 77 degrees. Where Simon is in South Florida, it's 46 degrees. Where you are, Dr. Walks and Dr. Hines?
It's 28 degrees, I think, here in Maryland.
Okay. Are you nearby?
That's up.
I'd like to. It is 28 degrees, but the feels like temperature with the little breeze outside makes it 19.
So that's called the wind chill factor, right?
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's about 30. It's about 30 degrees warmer than it was 2 days ago.
So it's below zero before?
-7. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. -7, -5. Yes, it was.
Okay. So that is dangerous. So in just reading a few things, we know that this puts many people, especially senior people, at risk for things like hypothermia. So this occurs when the body releases more heat than it absorbs. And this causes your body's core temperature to drop dangerously to levels. The normal human body temperature is 94.7 to 99.5 degrees Fahrenheit. But being hypothermic can be deadly. It means your core temperature is less than 95. And this condition is often caused by exposure to cold temperatures. Low glucose can happen, extreme alcohol consumption, and nobody would dare drink alcohol during Christmas, right? And anorexia. No. So this is very important. So you guys are on the East Coast. Do we think we have many people exposed to and liable to cold weather and falling down and being clumsy? And what are some of those symptoms? Let's go to the next slide. So one of the things that happens when you're hypothermic, you shiver. And that's your body's attempt at trying to generate more heat. This process can also cause you to be clumsy, uncoordinated, perhaps missing steps and swaying and looking like you're drunk, and you may fall down. And it also decreases blood flow to extremities and your vital organs and your lips, your ears, your fingers.
So Dr. Maxey, before you move past that, when you made a comment about folks drinking during Christmas time, and it's important to take that comment along with a part of this slide. If you see someone outside, because it has been literally deadly cold here and in many other parts of the country, minus 60 in some parts of Wyoming, minus 30 in some parts of Colorado. And I was talking to a patient who was in Chicago a few days ago that was out walking the dog, and it just bitterly cold. And anyway, I think it's important to recognize that when we see someone that may be looking like they're quote unquote drunk, they may be hypothermic and they may actually need help. So just important to distinguish, or the challenge, or to point out the challenge of being able to distinguish if someone is really in need of help or if they're just inebriating.
No, that brings up the question, when you do see somebody like that, what should you do? Even if they're not an acquaintance or somebody, just out of human. Dr. Hines, what do you think people should do?
Well, first we want to warn people to make their way or get themselves to indoors, alert them to the situation. Because sometimes if you're not all the way present for whatever reason, right, you may not be making good choices. And I would also extend that to some of the folks that exercise regularly, some of your joggers and the like who don't want to skip simply because it's super cold outside. You don't want to go out and wear the same clothes that you would normally wear, right? You are always jogging shorts, but if it's -4 or whatever degrees outside, that extra sweating can cause you to lose body temperature even faster than you normally would, and put you at greater risk for, again, hypothermia, and even if you don't realize how fast it's going to happen. So if we're talking about strangers or people that we don't know well that are appearing to be at risk, the first would be, alert them if you can, right? And it might be something you need to call 911 for, depending on what the circumstance is. I've seen people, because again, at holidays, people indulge in lots of things, and being high on life, so to speak, and falling out or passing out in the cold is deadly. Seriously deadly. I've seen the frostbite come into the ER from folks that nodded off outside in the cold and had to lose multiple fingers. So yes.
Yeah.
So we're not saying to stop your car and have them get in with you, because these are not people you know, and they may not be actually inebriated or hypothermic. They may be trying to get you to stop and get them in your car. But as Dr. Hines said, you can call 911. You can alert some authority that there's a person out there that needs help.
That is a very important comment, Dr. Walks. I know we all want to be good Samaritan, but there's dangerous times and we got a lot of lawless people. Let's see the next slide before let's go back and discuss some of these. So maybe Dr. Hines, you can lead this one.
Sure. So let's talk about frostbite. And frostbite is when the skin and the tissue underneath it freeze. And it happens when a person's been outside in extremely cold temperatures. And for some of the temperatures like we've been talking about, it can happen in a matter of minutes. And I don't mean, 45 minutes. I mean 6 minutes, 5 minutes, those kinds of things. And your distal extremities are the most vulnerable. So that's going to be like the tips of your nose, your fingers, your toes, your ears, your cheeks, your chin, simply because as Dr. Maxey showed in the other slides, under pressure, your body is going to clamp down on those smaller blood vessels and focus on making sure that those core organs get the blood flow that they need. And the stages of frostbite from early to mild start to deal with sensation. Remember when you were a little kid and you first start to break and it's cold outside and you've been outside for too long and your fingers start burning, right? And you feel that pain. Well, that pain will, as that tissue goes freezes, the pain will go away, right? It'll stop hurting, but that's because the tissue is dying, the nerves are dying. And oftentimes, again, if you're not paying attention because something else has taken you from your normal state of awareness, you can absolutely miss that stage and not even realize that your tissue is in serious compromise. And absolutely can lead to possible amputations. Before frostbite happens in that normal space where your fingers and your toes and stuff are painful, like lots of times the temptation is to go right to hot water and try to warm it up real fast, but you don't want to get super duper hot water because again, you're not getting normal sensation, so you can burn yourself, right? So you do want to use more of a lukewarm kinds of things to try to warm up your fingers and toes and stuff like that, as opposed to that scalding hot thing that folks are tempted to do because they're cold.
So you're talking again about hypothermia. I understand that hypothermia can start as high as a temperature outside of 50 degrees Fahrenheit. It doesn't have to be under zero, but you can start getting hypothermic at 50 or maybe even less. And so it's important to protect yourself. Now, I've always been told to wear layered clothing, maybe to wear a set of long johns and something under that, and then my clothes. But the more layers you have, that allows you to have an air barrier between those layers. Any thoughts on that, doctors?
So lots of times you can wear, in addition to being wearing multiple layers, you can wear water repellent clothing, because a lot of especially for folks who might have gone outside with an intent to exercise, right? Some of the water repellent materials and wind protective materials can be helpful, again, because these are the things that moisture on your skin is going to pull down your body temperature in a cold scenario. It's like being wet, right? When and then going out into the cold, you're going to get colder faster. The wools and the silks and some of the other synthetic fabrics are better insulators, or better at keeping heat in than, for example, maybe cotton, right? Cotton's one of the reasons people like cotton is because it's a breathable fabric, but under the wrong circumstances, a breathable fabric isn't necessarily what you want. And the other thing I would also just point out is that staying dry is important, right? So that space where you've gotten wet, or the snow or whatever, you're outside shoveling snow, and you're sweating, and your fingers, toes, coat, clothes, all of those things are wet, and you just want to stay out there to get the job done. That's another space where you can be at risk for hypothermia, frostbite, and those other complications, simply because once you get wet, now you're speeding up that process as far as being able to reduce your body temperature.
Let me go back and be clear. What was it saying about waterproof things? You're not suggesting you wear waterproof clothing, are you? What is your suggestion?
No, I was just saying that some of the wicking clothing that, for example, that people wear when they're exercising, that pulls the moisture from, on your skin, can sometimes be something that you might want to wear if you're going to be exercising outside in the cold. That's what I was saying. Not waterproof, right? Because some of the waterproof things are actually going to seal in. It's like when you wear your raincoat, if the water gets on the inside, that water's stuck there, right? So I'm not saying waterproof. I was just speaking to some of the moisture wicking materials that are available to folks that like to exercise.
Okay, so that's wicking like a candle wick. It pulls it out.
Correct.
So let me add something I'm fond of saying to folks, Dr. Maxey, when they complain about the weather. My comment is, there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad gear. what Dr. Hines and Dr. Maxey are just talking about with moisture wicking and whatever else, it's important to understand what your clothing is designed to do. Some clothing is designed to be worn by you snowbirds in Palm Springs and in the Florida Keys. And some clothes are designed to be worn when the temperature goes down to -50 and you're visiting somebody in Montana. And so I went to Cleveland once for a meeting. I grew up in Southern California, and they said on the weather report there was a winter storm coming to Cleveland. I know what that means. In LA, a winter storm means it's going to rain a lot. So I took my raincoat and I went to Cleveland. It was February. I was stupid. I did not have the right gear for my first trip to Cleveland in February. My raincoat didn't help at all. So I think it's important that we understand what our clothing is designed for and that we accurately look at the weather. It's amazing how many folks have been outside on the East Coast or in the Northeast the last several days going, oh, I didn't know that there was an Arctic. The temperature dropped 40 degrees in 1 hour in one day in certain parts of our country. That is deadly. If you've gone out for a jog and you're 2 miles from home and the temperature drops 40 degrees, you could die. And so I just think we can't overemphasize the fact that with whatever's going on, global warming, all of the things that are making us have different weather and these Arctic blasts and what have you, if you don't know what your clothing is designed for, and if you don't know what the weather report is, you're really risking your life and the lives of the people who are with you. There was stories of people stuck in their cars when the weather report for days has said, don't drive in this area on this day, and you get stranded in your car with your family. Come on, we have to do better than that.
Yeah, in fact, I looked at the news the other day and they were saying for people driving from Washington, D.C. to New York to check not only the weather in New York, but every stop in between, because the weather was different and the snow was different and the ice was different. So I think the key word is be observant of what's going on, stay plugged into your radio or TV or whatnot, so you know what's coming up at the next stop. Those are very good points. So moving towards the end, I don't want to be on here long on Christmas Day. I got to go to my electric train. Let's go to the next slide, just give a few more suggestions. So is this seeable, Dr. Walks? I can't see it well.
So this is a slide about COVID, US COVID. CDC recommends everyone who's eligible get an updated bivalent COVID-19 booster. We've been talking about this for weeks. Everybody's getting together and people are bringing their COVID with them. So even those who are asymptomatic, they're bringing their COVID with them. And the generational changes across families as people get together, just important to protect the people that you love. The COVID-19 bivalent boosters, they're safe, effective, provide extra protection, even if you've already gotten 2 or more doses of the original vaccine. People can protect themselves and others by wearing a mask or respirator in indoor public settings, improving ventilation when indoors. Open a window if you can. You can open a window in Palm Springs. You might not want to open a window in North or Central Florida, certainly not in the Northeast. If you have COVID-19 symptoms, get tested. If you test positive, talk to your healthcare provider about treatment options and don't go to the family gathering. You can miss Christmas dinner or a New Year's Eve party or what have you. If you know you're tested positive, don't say, oh, well, it's okay, I'll go anyway. Please don't do that. COVID-19 community levels can help you make an informed decision about how to protect yourself and others based on the latest information. If you find that COVID-19 is really high in the place that you're going, you may not want to go there right now. because some places are really having an uptick of, I don't know what the next slide says, but COVID is high, the flu is high. You can get both. You can get double sick, triple sick with some bacterial thing when your body is weakened from the other things. It's just a time to be careful. And if you don't feel well, call your doc, stay home.
So that's what I'm saying. Two questions. One, what exactly is a ventilator, and how do you improve ventilation at home, like opening windows? And how do you find out what your community levels are? How would somebody do that?
So Dr. Maxey, first of all, I know you're trying to trick me on Christmas, because a ventilator can either be the kind of mask that's called a ventilator, or the ventilation can be you talking about opening a window to allow the air to circulate more freely. Dr. Hines, why is he trying to mess with me on Christmas? So we always talk about ventilation as in airflow. If you can and you're in a place where it's comfortable, open a window. And then the other comment that Dr. Maxey made is very seriously, how do you find out about the COVID levels, or just the general illness levels, or the full emergency room and you can't get in levels in your area? And we recommended many times that folks check with the CDC.gov site to look at the COVID levels and see what's going on in your area.
I think if you go on the internet and go to CDC data tracker COVID, it'll come up for every county, every community in the country. You can look up yours and it'll tell you what the level is. Let's go to the next slide.
But before we transition too much, I just wanted to say about, getting tested. For many folks who may have been already well vaccinated for COVID, especially early on, those COVID tests might be negative. And it may take a while, and I mean days, to have COVID. Sometimes, your COVID tests actually show a positive COVID test. So I would go, if you have COVID-19 symptoms, even if you test negative, stay home. Because even if you ultimately don't have COVID, no one else wants whatever it is
Right.
that you have, right? Because these are just the RSV. And keep in mind, RSV is not just infectious to children. It can be infectious to adults too. It's just not typically the same overall health hazard that it is to adults, since the airways of children are smaller. But these are just three. There are multiple infectious viruses going around at this time of year, as there have been in years prior and will likely continue to be. And I think the point is, if your sniffles, your cough, your sneezing, I don't know why I feel achy, I got a weird headache, keep all of that and just send your wishes via the phone or on the video or whatever. Because you just don't know what it is. And we don't have enough home tests for all the different things that are possible, that they possibly could be.
So Dr. Hines, question, is that whatever is spelled with a capital W and a capital E?
What's a never? That's what's a never, right? That was what's a never you may have.
Let's go to the next slide.
Holidays. Typically, what is seen after the holidays, after Christmas and New Year's, illness starts to increase and it peaks in late January, early February, and then declines. Since there have been so many illnesses so early in the flu season, it's likely to peak closer to next week, with sustained high levels of multiple respiratory illnesses for some. The surge of flu and RSV cases has especially hit pediatric hospitals hard. Their emergency departments typically see around 140 kids a day, but on Tuesday in mid-December, average was 253. Ooh. So this just underscores what we've been saying. Don't take it lightly that whatever you have is not serious. It's not going to affect anybody else. It's not going to put you down, because you can be kind of sick and then go out and catch something else and get really sick. So just all the more reason to stay inside and watch This Christmas. Good movie.
Let's go to the next slide. So this is just saying, go ahead.
RSV levels of sickness. RSV cases also appear to be more severe than they've been in past years. A survey of 100 physicians, 64% of respondents said RSV cases are more severe than in prior years. One was quoted as saying, these kids are just so much sicker than typically seen during RSV season. Some children are also showing up to hospitals infected with both the flu and COVID-19. And according to the CDC's morbidity and mortality weekly report, surveillance data has shown that 6% of flu-related hospitalizations and 16% of flu deaths involve children who had both the flu and COVID-19. Children co-infected with both diseases were more likely to require either BiPAP or CPAP machines than those who only had the flu and were more likely to need invasive mechanical ventilation. So, wow.
Let's go to the next
Don't let
slide.
this be your kid or your grandkid. Bivalent vaccine, bivalent mRNA COVID-19 booster doses containing an Omicron BA.4/BA.5 sublineage component. That's what's recommended. Bivalent booster doses provide additional protection against COVID-19 associated emergency department/urgent care encounters and hospitalizations in people who previously received 2, 3, or 4 monovalent vaccine doses. Because of waning of monovalent vaccine conferred immunity, in other words, your first shots are wearing off. The protection from your first shots is wearing off. Relative effectiveness of bivalent vaccines was higher with increased time since the previous monovalent dose. All persons should stay up to date with recommended COVID-19 vaccinations, including receiving a bivalent booster dose if eligible.
So that's saying we gotta stay up to date. I thought I was protected from all those shots I had, but it's not true. Next slide.
Well, you were protected from serious hospitalization because of COVID-19, right?
Yeah, except it wore out. Go ahead.
But Dr. Maxey, when you did get COVID, as you shared with us previously, you didn't have to be hospitalized because of the COVID.
That's true. That's
Okay.
true. Okay.
All right.
Dr. Hines?
Dr. Hines, go ahead.
So flu and COVID-19, there were about 9 pediatric deaths from the flu reported the week ending December 10th, and bringing the total number of pediatric flu deaths this season to 30. And experts say that flu cases may be peaking soon, as Dr. Walks just read in the previous slide, but caution that a flu outbreak will turn into waves of illness in the early spring that collide with COVID-19. So flu season is typically from October to March. So again, even if it peaks in the coming weeks, that's not the same thing as saying flu season is over, right? And we've seen, because we've done a few rounds of this right now, right? That around this time, right, folks are going to come back from their holidays, from these school breaks, and then things are going to kind of, go off the rails again, probably in January. And then, we'll have to keep an eye out for what happens again as we come to the early springtime, right? By the time we get to March. And so staying vigilant on, again, the symptoms and signs of illness isn't going to be important for all of us. Continuing to wash hands and things like that. What we get to do differently than we've done previously in the recent years is, it's not saying don't go, don't do anything. Like we're all going to stay at home and do nothing. But we are being tasked to continue to be smart about where we go, how we go, what constitutes prepared, what constitutes appropriate preventative action for these different scenarios that we're going to find ourselves in.
Let's go to the next slide. I think we're about at the end.
Yep, that's 10 of 10.
Yeah.
Okay, Simon, if we put the slides down. So, as I said before, since we're on a holiday, and I'd like to entertain any questions or comments from our audience, both lay and professional. And then why don't we give this another 10 minutes and let's go enjoy our electric trains and fruitcake. I'm gonna go to Dr. Walk's house and get me something to eat. Anybody have a comment?
There are no
Good
comments.
morning. This is Dr. Sherrod. I just
Good
want to
morning.
say Merry Christmas to everybody and Happy Kwanzaa and Happy New Year. And I'm grateful to be present
Amen.
That's
because many
very
people
important.
are not.
That's very important to be. Say it's important to be seen and not viewed.
Exactly. And I just want to thank the Black Health Trust for all of the educational information they've shared with us this whole year, or we have shared this year. And I'm hoping that it will make a difference in somebody's life. And I hope that we can continue to share this most vital information because the education is needed, is one of the key factors. And remember to get your vitamin D level, should be around 50. It will determine whether you live or die if you have to go in the hospital with COVID. Or even in getting COVID. And vitamin D, you know, is a hormone. It has a receptor site on it. Every cell has a receptor site for vitamin D. So it not only works with COVID, but with diabetes and hypertension and everything else. So it's very important. That's something you can do. Take responsibility for your own health and life. Thank you
very
all.
much, Dr. Sherrod. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Any
Sherrod.
other comments? Any hands raised, Dr. Walks and Dr.
I
Hines?
don't see any hands raised. I see a comment from Linda Hall, thanking everyone for all the information. And we thank you all for participating.
All right. Anybody advisories on other than Dr. Sherrod? Okay.
No one I can see, but Dr. Maxey, if I can have a comment, as this is our last Black Health Trust for 2022, I just really want to say how much I know we all appreciate Simon, all the other folks that you know, Dr. Maxey, that help us make this happen. It really is valuable to a lot of folks. And so we just want to appreciate our folks.
Well, thank you so much. And Simon, we were talking before the broadcast, he's got a son who's approaching 7 feet at 14 years old. So
Whoa.
Now-
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear that, Simon. The grocery bills must be astounding.
See, thank you. You understand. He's 6'5" and he's 14 years old. And there was a long time where he was very, very picky as an eater. Now I have to threaten him to not eat all the stuff in a day and a half so I can at least get a snack or something. So
Well,
Wow.
Dr. Hines, any final words?
Again, just, grateful for the year that we've been able to spend together, exchanging ideas and educating each other. Because I've come on here and learned quite a few things myself. So I appreciate all of you. I am happy that we've come to this place in the year. That's a blessing. Like Dr. Sherrod was saying, that that we're just here and present. There's a lot of things to be grateful for. Even if not every moment is happy, but there's still a lot of things to be grateful for.
Well said. And Dr. Maxey, I see Dr. Lawson has come on. I don't know if he has a Christmas comment.
Dr. Bill Lawson.
Well, again, the only Christmas thing I can say is that we look forward to the new year. We've had a tremendous challenges. There's a lot of people who unfortunately are forgetting that as I think the classic statements made by Isaac Asimov, man cannot be destroyed. say viruses do not go away. COVID is still around. These challenges are still there. If we just continue to maintain the same kind of vigilance, I think in the long run, it's going to pay off for us. I also would like to remind people that unfortunately, this is a time for those folks who have what I call seasonal depression, to watch out for becoming despondent and depressed while everybody else is having a good time, recognizing that this is something that we can help and we can address.
Well said.
Well, thank you so much. Dr. Walks?
I would really want to echo what Dr. Lawson said. We talk a lot about 'tis the season to be jolly, and one of the most popular Christmas songs is "What Do the Lonely Do at Christmas." It's played all the time, and so I heard another psychiatrist say that this is a time of year when maybe we can reach out to someone that we haven't talked to for a while, and just to say hello and to let them know that we're thinking about them. And so I would recommend that the comment about spreading a little Christmas cheer, not a bad thing to do. You don't have to call somebody and tell them how happy you are and that you just got a new this or a new that. But you can call people and say, hey, this time of year I was thinking about you and just wanted to see how you were doing. And then wait and listen for the answer, because sometimes you need that what's called a welcoming pause for people to really understand that you want their response and you're serious about wanting to know how they're doing.
And listen to their answer.
Yes.
So my final comments are, and I think Dr. Sherrod started it, is that whatever's going on, we are present and we are here. Whatever is going on in your life that you may not see as so happy at the time, at least you're cognizant and you're here and you're present, and we go from there. So I'm extremely happy that the Lord let me live. As the old people used to say, I have a reasonable portion of my health and mental health and awareness. So I didn't reach all the goals I set for myself this year, but Lord, thanks for letting me be here to see another day and be in service of you. And I wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Next week, we're going to be here on January 1st, which is another holiday. We're going to start 1 hour late. So if you're on Pacific time like I am, it means we're going to start at 1 o'clock. And what does that mean for Eastern time, Dr. Walks and Dr. Hines?
4 o'clock.
Boy,
That means 4 o'clock. But like Dr. Neighbor Stevens is doing this year, I think at 4 o'clock Eastern time next week, I might be driving through Mississippi.
Oh, my state.
Yes. So we will.
Let's pray for Dr. Walks.
We'll see.
I remember there's a song by Hezekiah Walker that says, Lord, be a fence all around me.
Every day.
Hey,
Dr.
listen.
Maxey, you talked about being present, but you know, the old people used to say, thank God that I woke up in my right mind.
Mm.
Or a mind.
I'm sorry, Dr. Walks, I cut you off, but going to Mississippi is wonderful.
Dr.
It's a
Sherrod,
beautiful state.
Look, I was just going to say that I have met two important things in Mississippi: good people and good food.
Oh, yes.
And also, my wife is from Mississippi.
Oh, so you are, hey.
I am triple blessed by Mississippi. It works for me.
Well, let me just make this announcement. Speaking of Mississippi, the second Black woman neurosurgeon who is a friend of mine, we were at Tougaloo College in the Ford Foundation science program when we were 10th grade. She's the second Black neurosurgeon in the United States, and she has just had her name replace a Confederate general on one of the streets in Laurel, Mississippi. Her name is Dr. Deborah Hyde, and she's a neurosurgeon, and she replaced the Confederate general, Joe Wheeler. The
Oh,
street
wow.
name was taken down from him and given to Dr. Deborah Hyde. So we
Where is she
all
located?
congratulate.
Where did she practice?
And she's in Laurel, Mississippi. At one time, she was in LA practicing, and she relocated, I believe, in 2019 to Mississippi. But
Well, that's-
she's an outstanding, and she also founded the Beacon of Hope Foundation, which gave scholarships while she was here in California.
So
Nice.
let's get her on the Black Health Trust, Dr. Sherrod.
Oh, okay. I will speak to her about that. She'll be glad to speak with us.
Love to
She's
do
a
that.
neurosurgeon, the second Black neurosurgeon in the United States.
Well, that is so
I
great.
mean, Black woman, I'm sorry, second Black woman neurosurgeon.
Well, that is really good. Our program on the second Sunday in January is going to feature Dr. Roger Mitchell. Dr. Mitchell is a pathologist. He's the former chief medical examiner for the city of Washington, D.C. He's now chairman of pathology at Howard University, and he's going to give us a presentation on death in custody. There's been a lot of people that show up dead. They get arrested for a traffic ticket, and they don't live till the next morning. And so he's going to speak about his collection on that. He's been a consultant in George. Who's the guy in the middle? In
George Floyd.
George Floyd case and a number of high-level case. He's a very important person. He's going to address us on the 8th, and then we're hoping to hear from Dr. Exelana Bean after that. And my last announcement, on Tuesday, the 27th of this month of December, our esteemed colleague, Dr. Ron Bailey, is having a gumbo party. And that gumbo party starts at 7 p.m. until the last person leaves. So I'm thinking about getting on a plane. I don't know, Dr. Walker. What do you think about that gumbo?
I think that you should get your COVID test before you get on the plane and go get some gumbo.
There you go. All right. Have a great Sunday. Merry Christmas, everybody. Be blessed. And blessings on Reverend Pointer in Buffalo, New York, for all they're
Yes.
going through. Have a great day, everybody. Be blessed. We love you.
Love you too.
Thank you, Simon.